Looking for clarity and confidence when it comes to decision making for your business? You've come to the right place. You're now listening to the Atomic Business Coaching Podcast.
What's up, Adam?
Well, man, we've done a lot of podcasts. That's what's up.
Yes, we have. Almost 2 full years of this.
It's amazing, right? So
It is.
we're coming here at the end of 2024. Tom and I figured, why don't we kind of reflect? You know, we do this in our book. We talk a lot about reflection. We do it with our clients. You know, Tom and I have gotten good at doing this with each other, but we've never really done a full year out in the open of reflection. So we have no script. We have no plan. We literally just said, hey, why don't we do a reflection about 2024? So that's what we're going to do. We have no clue where this is going to go, but maybe you'll get a little bit of insight of what we did this year and maybe some things we don't normally talk about in public. Sound good?
Sounds good to me, man. This has been a very, very productive year. That's for sure.
That is true. Why do you think that?
I think that we have accomplished a lot of things that we set out to do, but I also think we accomplished things that we didn't set out to do. And we were able to do it all, frankly. I don't remember saying at the end of 2023 that we were going to start a group coaching thing. It was an idea. We started Project 2740 as a community on school. And, all of the work that we have done inside of there has been very productive. And, we've iterated twice already, the third time already. And I'm glad that we're on track with that and excited to see what happens with it next year.
It's funny. I was talking to my wife just last night about how difficult the schedule is. And we're just talking normal husband and wife and kids type scheduled things. And we're about to, the holidays are coming and then we're going away for a week. And I was like, it's very different now. And I told her I had a jam-packed schedule the Monday before Christmas and the Thursday after Christmas because I had to squeeze all this stuff in. Because in the past, Tom, I don't know if you remember this, but we used to be able to cover for each other in Project 2740. And I was telling her, we can't do this anymore. It's like Adam has classes and Tom has classes. But we used to run these different classes, Tom, and I haven't thought about this in a while, but we used to run different classes where we were both in the room the entire time.
Yep. Now we're on our own, running our own classes.
That's where we are now. Let's think.
Yeah.
Have you thought about when we started this? Do you remember? Because we haven't really thought about this and talked about it. Do you remember how we really started it? Like we did product process people.
Right. Well, first it was the hot seat.
Right.
First it was the hot seat where you can come in and talk about your product process people. Then we evolved it to product process people. Now we do it as North Star offer.
Forget about now. I'm just curious about before. Because I really haven't even thought about this.
So when we first,
right?
When we first started, Wham was a regular post on Mondays, and my mindset was a post that we did on Monday.
Right.
And then we did Hot Seat on Tuesdays, and then we did Q&A on Wednesdays, and we did Power Hour on Thursdays, and then we rotated those. But at first, it was just every week, either Tuesday was Hot Seat, Wednesday. Then we rotated the schedule so that everybody could get there. We had Jessica come in over the summer and do some fitness work. My God, we have done so much in this thing.
Hold on.
Oh my God, hold on.
That's great. I'm able to I'm opening up the calendar. So I'm looking back. All right. So March, in March we had on Tuesdays, we had Hot Seat. On Wednesdays, we had Power Hour, and Thursdays we had Question and Answer.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So we had 3 meetings that we were both in. They were scheduled for an hour from 8:30 to 9:30, Tom. Think about that.
Oh, wow. We were doing 8:30 and 9:30 every night.
So that was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 8:30 to 9:30. So that's how we started it. So that meant me and you were spending an hour together in every one of those meetings with our clients.
Yep. Yeah.
Hot Seat was basically about the Q&A stuff, about the 4 Ps, right? It was product, process, people, prevail. And they could ask me a question or they could ask you a question. Was that a bad thing? I don't mean in its time. I mean, why have we moved so far away from it? I know why we have what we have now because we built the 5WH system.
Listen, when we first started, it got a lot of people moving in the right direction, right? And this was our first rodeo doing group coaching. Neither of us had really done it before. And we were figuring it out. And, that's one of the things that I just love about the community. They've allowed us to keep figuring it out and keep innovating. But when we started with Hot Seat, I loved Hot Seat, but it was it wasn't as much structure. We didn't go into as much depth as we're going now. We're really digging. It was kind of almost not to use a negative word, but it was more superficial. It was more high level. It wasn't a deep dive. And I feel like we have evolved it into this deep dive, and it's so much better now, in my opinion.
It's incredible now. But what I'm trying to think about is like, did we need to make this better? I love what we're doing now, and I see the effects that people are getting, and I know you do too. And
Yes.
it's laser focused, which is kind of what we teach. So of course we would like take our own medicine, so to speak. Like we had a hot seat where we talk about these 4 major things: people's product, their process, their people, and how to prevail. And then we do this session with them with Power Hour to actually work with them to understand how to go out there and prospect and stuff. And then we'd had a random Q&A, an open Q&A, not random. We'd have an open Q&A where they could ask me or you anything specific about business or life.
100%.
Like, why did we go so far away from that? If you're thinking about it now, people were happy.
People were happy.
We were making money.
But there wasn't this finite destination. It was more of ongoing support. And that was our original intention, was to see what we could do, right? And to understand how it might work. And I think we allowed for it to evolve. And now it's kind of like we're trying to give people milestones and endpoints to achieve. It was not as much focused on, getting to the next step in the process. It was get here, just get here to start.
There was no next step. There was no end goal. We used the old Project 2740 idea of you're trying to create a business that generates $2,740 per day. And if you get these 4 things, connected, you can. And if you have someone to ask questions and answers to, you can. And if you do this technique of prospecting, okay, it'll help you get there. It would have did its job, but now we're so like, okay, we have this system and we've cultivated this system and like, oh my gosh, it actually works and people actually use it and like it. But it's very, as simple as we like to make things, it is super convoluted now.
It is, but I feel like the return to the 5 W's and really breaking that down much more. And, cause you ran the mastermind on Project 2740 and it was all about the 5 W's before we even did school like this and had this group. And, we got to dive into it deeper. And I think that's what we felt like was missing from the group, was the need for that, to dive deeper, to really explore each, because we felt that people were missing something that they needed. And we tried to fill that void.
When I did the first group Project 2740 mastermind, it wasn't a community. It was a very specific mastermind. You started and you ended. There was no thing. It was a year long. It was every other week. It was 90-minute sessions. That's it. Everybody got value out of it that attended it. We have people that are multimillionaires out of it. Me and you, created a business out of it. We're doing a lot now.
Exactly. Oh my God. It's crazy. It's crazy. The time, first of all, this year flew by so fast. I mean, I can't believe it's almost 2025 already. Like, this is insane, but we've done so much. I think you and I have done more in this year than some people do in 3 years. That's what I feel.
I don't think you have to feel that way, because I know I've done more in this year with you than I probably have in the last 5 years in all of my other businesses combined. Honestly, like, meaning new development, coming up with better strategies and tactics, really refining exactly who I'm working with, doing a really good job with them, working on things on a daily basis that are not just like, I'd like to work on this. They're actually important, and working through them and getting them done. A lot of that has to do with our ability to see the same vision but have a completely different path, end up in the same place together. It's not like we said, all right, here are the 722 things we're going to do this year, but I think we did 722 things this year.
It felt like a 722. I mean, we also evolved, not just the group, but we evolved our one-on-one coaching, and we've really come into a place where I'm very confident in what we do. And that's a lot of it, right? Is being confident in what you do to be able to share with people and put people on the right track. And again, it's just another way, like you've said several times, is, we want to use one thing and use it many different ways. And I really feel like this year was a year of clarity and clarification on what we're doing. And I think going into 2025, we have a lot of good structure. In the end, it's really not complicated. We know exactly what needs to happen and how it needs to happen. And we have the systems and the processes to get people through, whether it's one-on-one, in a group, or board meetings, whatever it may be.
I think you're right. This year was the most clarity in the 4 years we've been doing this together. It was the most clarity we got. We were doing a lot of testing. We were trying to do a lot of merging of the way I did business, the way you did business. But this year, it really finally, it crossed over. And then when it crossed over, it became a new thing. It wasn't like, oh, we're using some of Adam's stuff and we're using some of Tom's stuff. It became our stuff.
Yes, 100%.
This is the first year it really did. And we finally, even today we were talking about how we correlate things together better now. What we were talking about, we're going to do a live event eventually. We don't know how we're going to do it yet, but I know that'll be the 723rd thing we do. But the idea is, I think you're right. It's clarity. And it's funny that you say that because we wrote a book. How many years ago did we write The Atomic Game Changer? 2 years ago?
2 years ago? What's the copyright on this?
It feels like 10 years ago, but
I know it feels like forever ago. Oh my goodness.
What do you got on the copyright page here?
Yeah, let's see. What does the copyright page say? 2023.
2023. I wonder what month, but it was like early on. So
It was early 2020.
It's almost 2 years.
Sorry.
What is the second
principle? Huh?
Well, that's what I'm doing. What's the second principle then?
Surrender.
So are we at that point now where we have to, me and you and Atomic, the three of us, have to surrender our old life and decide to take on this new one?
Well, I think we are at that point, right? I mean, we've surrendered. We've looked at our schedule in a lot of ways. You're pushing out things and selling businesses, and
I'm out.
Yeah, you're out, and you're selling businesses. I'm scaling back in my other business, making room for people in Atomic. We have a whole schedule where we're putting people. So I feel like we are starting really to surrender. I think it's the start.
So that's what I'm saying is, are we holding ourselves back a little bit? And are we then potentially holding our current and future clients back by us kind of towing the line and not fully surrendering and saying, this is who we are. This is what we do. This is how we do it now. Like even if I look at our website, we're still kind of like a little this, a little that.
I think that will get further clarified in 25. I think again, I'm someone who goes through an evolution of change, right? And surrendering is changing old habits and committing to a new version of yourself. And I think the clarity that we've gained from this year will allow us to really spend 2025 surrendering. And it's funny, 2025 in numerology is the number 9. And the number 9 often marks the end of a journey. Mm. So when you think about it, number 10, which is 2026, is the beginning of a new path. And I think that we're very appropriately going into a year of surrendering old habits, making ourselves in a new way to be the best for our clients and for everybody that we encounter, to be honest with you.
I don't disagree. I'm just curious what the hesitancy for both of us and our business, the three of us, to surrender. Because I'm going to read the symptoms. And ready? All right. This is from our book. It's page 225. Yeah. So it says, this is the symptoms. Have you ever felt an overwhelming resistance to change? Even when you know that your current habits or situations aren't serving you well? Have you experienced the nagging pull of procrastination, finding endless excuses to delay the process of transforming your life? Or perhaps grappled with the fear of failure, afraid to try new things or step out of your comfort zone?
The first one, what was the first one?
Yeah, an overwhelming resistance to change, even when you know, this is the key, even when you know your current habits or situation aren't serving you well.
I would say that's probably a mild symptom for me right now. But the other ones, I feel like we are constantly changing.
Well, it says, but if you look deeper, it's, have you experienced the nagging pull of procrastination, finding endless excuses to delay the process of transforming your life?
I don't feel that.
It doesn't say your business.
Yeah, I don't feel that.
It says your life.
But I don't feel that.
I don't feel that I've changed my life, even though we've drastically changed our business. I feel like sometimes the business has tried to change my life and maybe I haven't fully accepted it. And I know we just recently went through and said, all right, here's how we're going to schedule things out. I don't know. And then it's perhaps have you grappled with the fear of failure? I know I do.
Yeah, I grapple with that as well.
Afraid of trying new things. I have a tough time doing that with this. Stepping out of your comfort zone, tough time. Resistance to change, even when you know your current habits or situations aren't serving you well. I feel there's a lot of that in everything that we do. Like, I think there's a lot of what you and I know this business could be. We know what it should be, but there's a lot of like habits or situations that we're continue to do. I'm not saying they're not serving us well, but they're not, might not be allowing things to progress as fast and as far as we both know they can.
I think that could be, that's a good point. I think that's a very good point. I think there's times that I'm going to draw the example more of sometimes we know what needs to get done, but sometimes we drag getting there, right? And we change the things that are easier to change or the things that are right in front of us that can be changed. And we change that and we go with that. And sometimes I think we get distracted by that we've made that change that we still didn't address the thing that we're dragging ass on here, so to speak.
So that's a great way to look at it. And I think you're right. I think it's kind of like, let's say we wanted to change something and we realized like, okay, in order to change that, there's 4 things that have to change. And then we change like number 1 and number 2 and we forget 3 and 4. And they're like, oh, there's this other thing we should change too. You know, I've had a really difficult time my entire life. I call myself a 90%er. And what I mean by that when I have to say that to myself is it's like I get things to 90% of the way there, and then I don't want to not be able to do this anymore, so I don't finish them. A lot of times that happens for me. And I wonder if there's any of that creeping into our business.
I think I could see that. I could see that in certain situations. You know, like we were talking before, we do these networking events and it's so much work to get people there. And, I spend a lot of time and effort doing it. And then we don't do the follow through 100%. We need to get better at that, right? We need to capitalize on those opportunities that are right in front of us.
Okay, so I have a thought now. We lost our assistant this year in the summer. We haven't brought another person on. I wonder how much we're holding ourselves back because we don't have that other hand to help us now. We have plenty of vendors that help us with very specific things like editing and podcasting and videography and our CRM system. And we have all these other people who are working, I wouldn't say for us. We've hired them to do a service or a role or something, but we don't have any internal person anymore. And I know you and I have always struggled with having another human being like here. What I mean by that is like someone here local in New York near us that we can do in-person stuff with too. And we've struggled with having a virtual assistant. I think we both have our hang-ups with parts of virtual assistants. But there's so much that you and I are both doing that are way beneath our area of expertise.
I would agree.
The best use of our time. I wonder what's not allowed us to surrender those habits.
Well, I think that is something that I definitely would like to work on for 25 is getting somebody else in and really help. It's identifying the right person to be able to do all of those things that we do that may not be at our level, but they are imperative to the operation, right? And it's really making sure we have a very competent person. And that is something that, because, we had put a lot of our business into that person's hands, right? Coordinating those events, following up with the people that we literally gave her all the bags of money and we let her run with it. I think that's the hurdle to get over is what are we willing to do and what are we willing to bring on in order to move ourselves in that right direction so we can really focus on what we need to focus on.
I know I always look at throughout the day, you and I struggle with communication or it was just overwhelming. I'm an overwhelming person. I communicate random hours, random things and sporadically about many different things and expect the person I'm communicating them with to organize them and put them all together and understand it. I always keep thinking maybe there's an opportunity for me, like if I just had my own personal system on that I could do that to them. And then as I give them one thing, another thing, it's just they take it and they do it and they run it and what's next at them? Take it and they do it and they run it, what's next at them? Take it and they do it and they run it, what's next at them? That's what I think I would need someone for. Every assistant I've ever had in my entire career was particular to a overall skill set, task, or job. Right. And it was like someone who just did applications for me in certain businesses, someone who would do customer onboarding, someone who would handle money movement for me, someone who would handle my schedule and emails. Like I've had all these and each one of them only had a very specific role. Sometimes they would do 2, but I think I need more of, it is an assistant, more of a manager. It's like I give them what would you call this? I have an idea. I have a task and maybe I have 500 different things. I'm like, here's what I want done. Go figure it out. Go get it started. So I can then finish it up. I can then take the next step that I want.
Yeah. Listen, that's very executive assistant-esque. But it's also a lot of coordination, right? So it's a coordinator type person that can do and juggle all of those different projects. They have to be very organized. It could be considered a project manager, right? Where you give somebody a project, because a lot of our stuff is set up in projects, right? If you look at everything that we do, it's set up in projects. We have the super group meetings. We have the monthly morning meetings. We have sometimes the dinner meetings. We have onboarding for Project 2740. We have all these different, very systematic processes, and they're very specific projects that they align with. It's just making sure all of those projects are running all the time, right? They're projects that never come to an end. They just have many milestones along the way. I don't even know what you would call that, but that's how I visualize it. I try to create a visual of it. And, as you have so many ideas, and like you said, they come across at so many different times in the day. We need someone to go back and organize, and because it's even hard for me to organize it, but organize it in a way where we got to put the similar ideas together and then address that think tank, right? It's almost like we need a project management think tank, and then we can.
Well, that's kind of what it is. I appreciate that you can see that, because I'm usually thinking about like 4 or 5 different lanes of what we're doing, right? And it's like recently I've been thinking a lot about our system and how because what we're going to do, for any of you who don't know, is Tom and I are going to take our 5WH system that we've done in group coaching, we've done a 101, and we're going to build it out where someone could just buy these courses and take it all on their own. If they choose, they want more, they want us, they can, but they could just take the course and do that. So I've been thinking a lot about that, right? But I've also been thinking a lot about content creation. I've been thinking a lot about our audience. Okay. I've been thinking a lot about how do we adapt our one-on-one coaching to synergize with the 5WHs all across. So like those are the 4 main things I've been thinking about lately. There's 4 projects in my head I'm working on, but then each of those projects tends to have like all these tentacles on them. And I'm like, oh, well, you need to do this thing for that. Now think about it at the moment. It's supposed to go in that project, but something has to get done to take the next step. And either I have to do that, or I tell you, hey, when can we do that? Or we're scheduled to do it together, or you actually do a piece of it. And that's the missing piece. It's like,
because if somebody could take that and do what we typically do and sit down, it's sometimes easier for us to, not to be cruel, but to tear it apart so that we could get to the place that we want and not have to start from the very beginning, right? I think that was one of the things that was very beneficial is that things were started for us and we can make improvements to them. What we've spent a lot of time doing is just starting things from scratch and not being ready to just do the improvement. And I think that's a big difference, and kind of need somebody in that kind of capacity.
That's exactly what I feel as well, is that this is the time we're going to start that. And we do start it, and then it just sits.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it's like, we may come back to it months later, weeks later, days later, but it's like kind of like, we had the Justin Walsh course we were going to take. We talked to Danny Del Vecchio, recommended. He's like, it's really good. I think you guys would get use out of it. How long did it take you, Danny? He's like 2.5, 3 hours. How long did it take us? Like 3 weeks, right?
That's 3 weeks, almost easily 10 hours to do.
Right. 10 hours. It's not just, it was like 3-hour video, but then we would talk about it. We would try to, all right, how are we going to use this? We would actually do the workbooks and everything else, but then we had to spread that out over many, many, many days. Whether it be, we got 45 minutes here, we got 2 hours there, or, it's stuff like that I feel good that we got through it. Right.
Yep.
Okay. But now are we going to use all the stuff? And it's like, okay, we did it. Now are we going to use it? That's the 90% that I'm talking about. It's like, we went through that whole thing. Now what's the implementation? What's the usage of it?
I don't want to say we're being too hard on ourselves here, but we always implement something from everything we learn.
Right.
We have always taken a piece and implemented, but we've never pushed that envelope far enough sometimes. And I think this is one of those opportunities to do that. And I think that with our new schedule, the way we've laid it out, I think we're going to appreciate more of the time when we work on the business to really hammer out a lot of these things and have a little bit more organization to that, right? And I think that's the thing. Like, we're like, all right, we're always finding a spot. We're always finding a hole to plug something in, to work on, to finish, to do.
That's a good way to say it.
Yeah, that's what we do. I mean, we literally did that today. We're always finding the hole to plug the stuff into so that we could be as productive, still being respectful of each other's lives and time. And sometimes something like a 2-hour course has to take us 3 weeks to do, but we can't do that going forward. We've got to really decide how we're going to handle those things in the future. And I think that this new structure of our schedule will help us to do that.
It's funny. for me, I think for you too, the biggest value I got out of that Justin Welsh course was literally one slide he had, and it was called the tripwire and how he funneled down people. And, me and you took that and we're like, holy cow, we're kind of doing that, but not this way. And there's a better way to do it. And I think it was like 15 minutes. We almost threw it out like, holy cow, this is a business model. And we changed it. And we're like, okay, this is exactly how we could do that. How much do you believe in that?
And that's your where? And what we can do?
Where did you put it in the, I'm not going to share it on the screen, but I want us to both look at it. Where did you put that?
Where did in business planning, I believe.
All right, let's see this. So, all right, I have it open in front of me. All right. So we have this idea that we have this annual membership to join our community, right? And it's like $19. And they'd get this starter course, which actually could kind of be like, something to the live event that we're talking, or second step. It could be something, right? And then we would give them a few things in here. And then we would offer what we're doing currently, our 5WH selling system, the simple selling system, which right now is called Project 2740. So they would have the ability to buy that as a course now, right? Instead of coming through us one-on-one. And then we would evolve it to like, hey, if they really need some extra help, if they want to do the thing, implement the thing, they can come into a community with us. And then we have another level that we really are striving to get people to. And we have done this, but we've brought them, instead of in a group, we've brought them to one-on-one coaching, which is very expensive for them and very labor intensive for us. So now we're thinking of making that a course as well. Even the price of the course, most people, when they do that with us, they go through about 6 months to a year, and it's $3,000 to $4,000 a month. This would be $2,000 to buy the entire system, right? And then they could actually come into a community to talk to us and work with us. Right? Okay. Oh, my mouse. Okay. And then they could do this other, the community to come in and talk to us to do the actual thing. And then what our whole thing we've been trying to do, and we're very lucky that I think we have 5 clients where we want to do board meetings with clients. Right? We have like 5 clients doing that now, something like that. Okay. And now we're like, we do these on a monthly or quarterly basis with clients. We have done it with an annual with one client. We're thinking there's a way that if someone goes through this whole progression, or they're midway through that and they finish the progression out, they didn't need the beginning, let's say, that they would have the ability to understand the value and utilize a board meeting without needing hand-holding all year, and they would actually be able to implement it. When I look at this, I have a certain thought and a feeling. When you look at it?
When I look at it, you see, you and I look at things very differently.
Mm-hmm.
This is fully executable in my head, right? Because I could see what needs to be done to operate it, to get it out, and to make it a reality, okay? The thing is how much energy, and I always go with this, how much energy are we willing to put into this with everything else that we're doing? And I think that is often the challenge for every business owner, not just us. And this is why I think sometimes we 90% it. Is because we realize when we've gotten through all of it, we go, that's going to take a lot more energy and effort. And is this the right thing to do at this time? Right? I love this, and I can see us implementing pieces of it over the course of the year. I don't know if we could implement the full thing, but I would say we could definitely, the annual membership, the simple selling system, and the community, yes. I think we could definitely do that. So I'm like 30% of the way there, but we only designed this yesterday.
The annual membership is just because you have to charge something, have to come in there, and we give them something basic thing, right? So it's basically they're buying the course. The annual membership and the course comes all together.
Yep.
Right. So it's a course they could take all by themselves. And then a community goes with that. And then it's a second course and a community goes with that. See, when I look at it, I'm like, oh, it's just those 2 things. That's it. And yeah, eventually if someone wants to do a board meeting, they have that. But when I look at it, it's a course in the community, a course in the community, right? So it's 2 communities, 2 courses. And when I look back at what you and I started, 3 nights a week, me and you together, we answer people's questions. We gave them some tactic, and it's basically this. It's hot seat and Q&A.
True.
I'm reflecting back on how do we start sometimes where you start is where you finish. And it's like, but now we'd have a very, very precise, useful, tactical system to follow through using a course, which that's what I would say over the course of this year. What I've learned the most, which I've never done in my life, was teach all these different courses. Like I've done trainings for people, but never ongoing like this. we also had to come up with new stuff. I think we created almost 50 courses. Every week, Tom and I would come up with a new course that we thought, okay, this is something these people would need. And most of our people in Project 2740 were newer business owners, or what we used to call start over businesses, people that just they were kind of stuck. They needed to make that switch and figure out what's going on, or people who were new and like, I never ran a business. And we always would come up, right, Tom? Like, oh, these people really need this thing that we've always done.
We were building a system on reaction, not proaction.
Right. And now we have a very, for lack of a better word, systematic approach of you go from A to Z and then you have a thing, right? Like there it is. You have it. And then there's a community where you could talk to everybody about it. You could talk to us about it. You could talk to them about it. And if I look back, that's what we had in the beginning.
Yes. It is funny when now looking back, but this is why it's so important to reflect. This is so important because what we wound up doing yesterday is kind of full circle.
Mm-hmm. It's full circle, but then like, okay, we had a circle. We didn't know what to put in it. Now we know what to put in it.
We've not reinvented the wheel. We've just glamorized the wheel a little bit more.
Well, but it was a hole.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Better. Even better. Okay.
Right. We dug a hole and like, all right.
Yep. And now we're filling it back in. Yep. I like that.
But if we think about it, it's really, if we simplify it, right? Because that's our whole philosophy, business and life are simple. They're just not easy. It's 2 courses and 2 communities.
Yeah, which is very simple.
And they basically migrate together because if you're in the second community, you were originally probably part of the first community.
Right.
So it's a progression. And if you're in the first and the second community and you do really, really well, you most likely need our board meetings.
Yeah. And the crazy thing now that you're saying 2 courses, 2 communities, we would still have a third community. And when we signed up for school way back in February, we originally signed up with 3 communities. We had 3 ideas that we wanted to execute on. And we wound up executing on one of the 3, which is great. But now we're just, again, back to that 2 courses, 2 communities. I like it.
The reason I wanted to bring this up is that we just say that's all we do in 2025 and that's our commitment. Now, obviously, we have certain obligations currently that we have to finalize or transition people out and over to this. But it's like, is this it? Is this like we say we're committed to this? Right? And because we really wrote out what comes with it. We have in here the weekly newsletter. We have in here the weekly podcast, but now we would know exactly what we're talking about on every single podcast. Cause, we've done a podcast for 2 years, also random. Mm-hmm. We've learned the skill of podcasting, of talking, of, you came into it with a much better skill set than me because you did a radio show for a year and you had a podcast. I never did this, so I had a lot of catching up to do. But I've been a public speaker for my whole life. So it was starter course, which we already know how to do course, weekly newsletter. We've written a newsletter for how long? We're just being very specific about our new newsletter.
We've done all of this.
Right. And we already have the course. We just want to make it more appropriate and useful.
And going back to the podcast, the evolution of the podcast this year was huge. And I love that we have the Q&A version of the podcast and we have the hard questions, simple solutions where people can interact. And we've had some really amazing episodes in the ones that we've done to this point. So everything evolves for a reason and happens for a reason. And I could see a lot of good uses for everything we've done this year looking at this now.
When I look at it, it's an aggregation of everything we've done, everything we've learned.
Yep.
Very simply put in.
Well,
but is that our commitment for 2025? Is it like, hey, the way we laid this out, this is what we are doing for the entire year. And that's it. That's the whole thing. We have a community. We have a course. You don't need to go to 17 classes over 3 different months and moves in here and out there and over there and up and around and get confused with what you're doing. And I don't have to babysit you. And you go through the course and there is a community where we can help you. We will talk to you.
What I like that it does, it puts us back together in the same rooms at the same time.
Dude, I miss that so much.
I need to sleep on it, but I'm leaning towards it.
I always appreciate that about you because if you weren't here and this was me doing a solo podcast, I would have just committed to the world. This is it. And whether it was right or wrong, I would make sure it happened for the whole year.
It's creating it's the big picture, but it's adding in a little tree over here and a happy little bush. Like I feel like Ross, Bob Ross, decorating the picture, but that's what we have. We have sprinkles of trees here that really would be very sturdy and would stand up very nicely and allow us to do everything that we've set out to do. Well, you see, that's what it is, folks. And this is something that I think is important for people who are listening. We don't have it all together. We don't know all the answers. We innovate and we have more ideas and more things that we do on a daily basis to try to get us closer. And what Adam said before is this is, we've come full circle. Sometimes you start where you end and you end where you started. And it's not about that. It's about you needed to go through that journey to get to this point to realize the things that we've realized. And I think everything that we've done over the course of not just 2024, but in the time leading up to this, since we started working together, all of it has brought us to this moment where we could actually say, is this the direction I really need to go for next year? Is this the direction that we need to move people because we know that this is with the highest intention for them to be successful? And I think, and for us to be successful, it's a win-win in my book. And I feel like I'm talking myself into it, but I'm still going to sleep on it. You know me.
I wouldn't want you to not to, because it's been very valuable for me to have patience. I never really had, and I've gained that through you. I'm going to do rapid through our calendar. Ready for this? So we started Project 2740 on February 13th, by the way.
Oh, wow. Okay.
2/13/24. I don't know if that means anything, Tom. Write it down. 2/13/24.
That's 6.
Oh, here he goes. I love it.
14, it's 5.
Okay. What is 5?
I forget. It's not meaningful to me, so I haven't.
Gotcha. Even better. All right. So that was the hot seat, the power hour, and the Q&A. Both of us together, an hour, 3 sessions a week. We did that until March 29th. We're going to put a course in here every week. That's when we decided we're going to now take our podcast, repurpose it, and also we'll do a podcast, but we'll give a course to these people, and we'll give it to our members like 4 weeks in advance, 6 weeks in advance. Okay. So that's what we did there. We did that until May 13th, where we added weekly accountability meetings. We then also added health, wealth, happiness, and a power half hour. So we added another one because people liked it so much. We're like, let's add a little bit more.
Oh my God, I forgot about those.
We added the weekly accountability meetings and the health, wealth, and happiness, where you and I were talking to them about that. So we went from 3 meetings to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we were together in all of those, weren't we?
Yes. All
of those. Now, they were at 12 o'clock, 8, 10 o'clock, and we would move. It was 12, 8, 10, 8, 10. So we would morning and evening, because we started getting people from other countries,
right,
in other time zones.
Right.
Okay, so that was in May. In June, we added in Danny Del Vecchio to do leveraging LinkedIn. Okay, let's see here. Weekly accountability meetings. Oh, here it is. In June 10th, we added in Monday Mindset with Tom.
There we go. And Limitless Living, right?
No, not yet. And then we had special sales sessions on 10. That was just 1 week. Okay. Power half hour. Okay. So we had those Monday mindsets. Okay. That was June. In July, we added How the F Are You?
Yeah. Yeah. That was a brief one.
It was brief. We did it for a few weeks. Then we added in July, Elevate and Thrive and Limitless Living. Edits to earnings. We were helping people to edit. Hot seat. Free to be with Jessica. What's this one? Sales session with me. And that's where I took over hot seat basically by myself.
Right. Exactly.
So that was in July. It was literally a couple days after my wife's birthday. So that's when you and I split up. We split up in July. And we added other coaches. Interesting. Okay. Let's go to August. So August, same thing. Pretty much it stayed consistent in August.
Yeah. We had added Limitless Living back in July and got rid of How the F Are You?
Yes. In September, pretty much the same thing. We moved a few things around. Dates. We moved some dates around. This is sales. What is this? Sales fundamentals. We added another coach.
Yep. We added intentional engagement in September with Shell and doing engagement on LinkedIn.
October, Elevate and Thrive, still all there. We added another coach, CRM. He was helping out with that. And these were coaches that we called them resident coaches. They came in for a little bit of time. November, Tom, we were still doing product process people in November.
Yes. And then we moved on the 18th of November to the new system where we broke people into months. So we had that.
So wait a minute. Think about that. It's only been a month. I want you to think about that. Think about the mental evolution we've had about what we're doing in the last, that's literally 18th to 19th, the last 30 days.
Yeah, the last 1 month, we did a year's worth of mental work.
Yeah, of what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, where we're going to change it, refining it, clarifying it. Holy shit.
Yep. It's only been a month. It feels like forever.
It was all based off of a lot of feedback from two forms of feedback, what people are actually telling us, but then what you and I would give feedback on each other's progress or their lack of.
Right, exactly. And the pressure and the stress that we saw people experiencing that we don't want them to experience here, but be able to move and use the stress differently, right? Not and to be uneasy, to be able to do what they have to do. But we didn't want to be additional. And we realized all that. And we got great feedback. It was good to have people that were in the group prior to that transition now see that we can adjust and help them to really be successful, keeping their best interests at heart.
I know we want to sell the system all by itself, but what if you are really selling the system and the community?
What have we seen with the community? And I constantly go to, it's the shared experience.
I'm saying community in a different way. I mean, the system and the access to us.
Oh, the access to us. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying by community.
I almost feel like we have to do that. Well, at least to be as a differentiator too.
Absolutely. But if we have, like, you take the course and then you have a community to come in and talk to us, right? And work through your very specific things instead of like a very regimented course and you got to show up to class and do the thing, right? A very, regimented classes, right? I'm blown away right now with where we started. I never looked back at this and didn't remember how it was, and it actually worked, but we didn't have what we have now, which is the system and the course.
Correct.
If we went back to how we started, I'm not telling us to do that, but if we went back to how we started and that's it, it was just like, but now they're like, all right, when you come into this community, you take the course at your own pace, you come in here and you ask us these questions. And that's the access you get to us. That's what we gave them before without a
course.
Very structured course. And people loved it. And there was a community. And me and you got to I thrived when you were in a room with me. Because you would say things and I'm like, holy cow, I didn't see it that way.
Right. And that was big for people. So we had a lot of mic drops in those meetings.
Yes.
Because it was the two of us working off of each other, which is what we do very well.
This year, we moved to priorities with purpose, where I'm doing a meeting, you're doing a meeting. Where we used to do all our meetings together. And now we've gone back to the first 4 weeks we're together and our board meetings were together. Let me ask you, how much better are those meetings?
Those are great. Board meetings are so much fun.
Well,
and those first 4 meetings of priorities with purpose are insane. I love those meetings.
Why have we decided to sleep in separate beds?
Because I think I know why.
There's definitely one reason. I'll take over the room.
Right. That's the main reason. That's the main. Mm-hmm. I think that's one. And two, I don't have a two.
That was the main reason. And so I'll give you, I knew I was taking over the room, but I also felt that there were certain times that I didn't add value to what you were doing. So what the hell am I in this room? It's like where it's funny. I got I got a much deeper education on your side of our business by us recording the course together. I mean, I even speak differently to you in the last few weeks.
Yes, you have. Yep.
Like, I understand your modalities. I understand your philosophies. I understand your knowledge base a little bit better. Now I have a different appreciation for what you do and understanding what you do. And I think you do as well with the systematic approach to what we're doing now.
Yep. And the conversation we had earlier today is still resonating in my head over and over and over. I'm just wondering if it would be that much more effective. The thing is, though, I still need a place for them to work, but they would have to do that on their own. Adam, how we're doing this office hour thing for board meetings? Maybe it is a session. Maybe it's the 5 W's with Adam and Tom. During that, we identify what people's sabotaging behaviors are based on where they are and what they're struggling with on those 5 W's. And then maybe it's an office hours Q&A like style as the second meeting of the week.
The way I perceive it is that they take the course and they get the knowledge, right? And then they get to come into a Q&A with me and you and ask either of us very specific questions. I think that's where it lies, is that we're there and they're like, all right, Tom, I have a question for you about this. Adam, I have a question for you about that. As we're answering the question, we would use the other coach and be like, All right. So it seems like this would be that. What do you think?
What do you think? Exactly.
Because that's what we've been doing in our podcast Q&A.
And that's been awesome.
But that's how it's almost every question we're both touching on it.
Right. And we're both giving a perspective from each of our different points of view, which adds tremendous value to people.
Are we just so excited that we get to perform with people all the time, and that's why we want to do this live coaching all the time? Are we just so like we love? Because I love it.
I don't know if it's the performance piece. It's the energy that we gain from the experience that gives us that reinforces the purpose of why we're doing this. And I feel like as much as sometimes we know we could be doing more, sometimes what we have to realize is that what we're doing in those rooms may already be more for people. And when we look at everything and we look at all the people and where they're at versus, where you and I think they need to be and where they are, we are still adding value to lives, changing their lives, giving them the confidence, giving them the structure, giving them all the things that they need in the moment that they need them.
Right.
But we see so much more. So it becomes very, it's like any teacher, right? And I know coaching is not teaching, but it is in a lot of ways. But like any professor, you're teaching economics, all the principles, all the things, but all the students want to know is how to balance a checkbook, right? And how to balance a budget and understand how to do those things. They don't need all the theories and all of that. They just want to know the practical. Yeah. And I think a lot of people come into our group for the practical, the tactical, so to speak, and some mindset adjustment as well. But we have all these things that we know that we want to give to them. But sometimes what we're giving is enough. And that's kind of the battle that we constantly have with ourselves and with when we're trying to figure out what's the thing we should be doing. I think that what we wrote yesterday is the simplified version of what we started with the course. And if we did 2 live sessions a week in there and just bundle that all together, get the course in this, and you can come in whenever. As long as you bought the course, who cares? It's an annual membership. We charge whatever it is, and it's, you have access to us. It's for the year. That's it. Come to sleep on.
Well, folks, come see us next year at the wrap-up review and see what happened. But you don't have to wait that long. We're here every single week. Atomic Business Coaching Podcast. Find it anywhere. I love you, Tommy. You're the best, man.
Love you too, brother. This was good. I like this episode a lot. All right. Listen, have a happy new year, people.